The opening of the second book of the Iliad presents a scene that, if we look past the bronze armor and the ancient dust, reads like a map of the human psyche at rest. It begins with a striking contrast. Now all the other gods and chariot-driving men slept all night long, but sweet sleep did not hold Zeus. There is something deeply evocative about this idea that while the entire world, both human and divine, drifts into unconsciousness, one specific force remains awake, pondering in the dark. In an esoteric or psychological sense, we can see these other gods and chariot-driving men as the lower faculties of our own inner world. They are the senses that shut down when we close our eyes, the restless emotions that finally tire themselves out, and the worldly ambitions that briefly pause when the sun goes down. The chariots they drive, that's the body, the vehicle that carries us through the material world. When they sleep, it represents a form of spiritual inertia. Most of our day-to-day existence runs on a kind of autopilot, lulled by the surface-level reality of things, largely asleep to any deeper purpose. But Zeus, in this framework, represents the higher self, the supreme will or the spark of pure consciousness that never truly drifts off. He is the silent, eternal watcher overseeing our evolution even when we aren't aware of it. And Homer tells us he was pondering in his heart, not in the head, the seat of cold, calculating logic, but the heart, the center of intuition and authentic wisdom. It suggests that while our conscious mind is offline, a deeper part of us is quietly architecting the road ahead, figuring out how to honor the best version of who we are. Part 1, the architecture of the higher self. When we talk about the higher self in the context of this Homeric imagery, we're looking at a concept that has echoed through philosophy for millennia. In the Orphic traditions of ancient Greece, Zeus wasn't just a king on a throne, he was a cosmogenic force, the organizer of the universe and the source of divine law. Psychologically, this aligns with what Carl Jung might call the self, not the ego, which is the I that worries about bills and social standing, but the central archetype of order that encompasses the entire psyche. This Zeus within us is what remains vigilant when the ego, the chariot-driving man, is sidelined. Think about the last time you woke up with a solution to a problem you couldn't solve the night before. That isn't just luck, it's the result of that internal watcher who spent the night pondering. This part of the psyche doesn't function through linear thought. It operates through what the ancients called mēnis, a type of cunning, fluid intelligence that sees the big picture. It's the difference between looking at a single puzzle piece and seeing the completed image on the box. This higher self is fundamentally concerned with your evolution, which brings us to the next part of Homer's line. Zeus is staying awake because he is figuring out how to honor Achilles. In the landscape of the soul, Achilles represents the striving initiate. He is the heroic ideal, the part of us that refuses to settle for an ordinary, unexamined life and instead reaches for something great. He is often called swift-footed, a descriptor that suggests his soul is ready for rapid movement and transformation. To honor Achilles is to elevate that heroic potential within yourself, to pull it from the sidelines where it's been sulking in its tent and bring it to the very front of your life. Part 2, the necessity of destructive growth. Now we have to address the darker half of Zeus's plan. To honor Achilles, he decides to destroy many beside the ships of the Achaeans. On the surface, this sounds like a vengeful god causing chaos, but symbolically it reveals a difficult truth about growth. The ships are our comfort zones. They are the vessels of safety that we cling to, the things that brought us to where we are now but might be preventing us from going where we need to be. In the Iliad, the Achaeans have been stuck by those ships for 10 years. They are in a stalemate. For the Achilles within us to truly rise and fulfill its destiny, the higher self often has to orchestrate the collapse of our lower attachments. This might look like the end of a long-held habit, the loss of a job that defined our identity, or the shattering of an egoic desire. It's what historians and mythologists often call the sacrifice of the lesser so the greater can rise. There's a psychological concept known as positive disintegration, where a person's existing personality structure has to break down before they can reintegrate at a higher level of maturity. Zeus isn't being cruel, he's being a surgeon. He knows that the Achaeans, the collective lower faculties of the psyche, are content to just sit by the ships and wait. They are comfortable in their stagnation. By bringing about their destruction, or at least their defeat, he forces a crisis that demands the return of the hero. It's a reminder that true honor and greatness aren't usually found in the safety of the harbor. They are forged in the moments when our ships are burning and we have nowhere else to go but forward. Part 3. The Silent Watcher and the Heart's Wisdom. The fact that Zeus ponders this in his heart is perhaps the most critical detail for us today. We live in a world that overvalues the head, the analytical, data-driven, sleeping part of our intellect. But the heart, in ancient thought, was the seat of the will. It was where the life force resided. When your conscious mind has no idea how you're going to get through a particular season of life, your divine will, that inner Zeus, is already working. This process is often entirely invisible to us while it's happening. We might feel like our lives are falling apart, like our ships are being destroyed, and we lack the context to see that it's all part of a plan to honor our highest potential. This is why Homer emphasizes that everyone else is asleep. Sleep, in this sense, is a metaphor for our lack of perspective. We are asleep to the causal links between our struggles and our growth, but the watcher stays awake. This implies that there is a continuity to our spiritual existence that persists even when we feel lost or unconscious. According to research into ancient mystery traditions, this sleeplessness of the divine was a common theme. The gods don't experience the lapses in consciousness that define human mortality. By aligning ourselves with that Zeus within, by listening to the heart's intuition rather than the head's fear, we start to synchronize with that higher rhythm. We stop fighting the destruction of our old selves and start understanding it as the necessary ground clearing for the hero's return. It's about learning to trust that while you might be resting or even struggling, there is a part of you that never blinks, a part that knows exactly how to bring you into your own glory. As we move through our own lives, it's worth asking which parts of us are driving the chariot and which part is the watcher. We all have moments where we feel lulled by the material world, anchored to our ships of safety and afraid of the changes that growth demands. But the ancient poets remind us that there is a supreme will within the heart of every person, a force that stays awake even in our darkest nights, quietly planning our elevation. It suggests that even the most difficult losses are often just the first step in the larger architecture of honor. The next time you feel like things are collapsing around you, remember that it might just be the watcher in your heart clearing the way for the greatness you've been hiding in your tent. If this perspective on the inner hero resonates with you, pass it along to someone who's currently standing by their own burning ships.